Well, as I mentioned in my other reel, I'm back on Instagram. I have been back in freedom since uh, early September, mid-September. Um, so yeah, I haven't been able to post since February 10th because on that date I was arrested. Um, I'm going to explain, I've read that you can post longer form on your Instagram main page. That's where I'm planning on putting this, but I will also put it on YouTube because there I know, and they're both at Megsy Beth. So this is Megan Mason on at Megsy Beth. So what happened? If you were following my Instagram last year or talking to me, I was living in a remote cabin on some property I own with my brother. And it was very cold and I couldn't find wood to buy, and I also couldn't afford a lot of wood to buy. So I was chopping wood, and I made a lot of wood chopping content for my YouTube. That channel was taken down after I was arrested, but so I made that for Instagram and YouTube, a lot of videos with an axe. So on February 10th, I woke up to go drive to the nearest town where there's a McDonald's so I could use the Wi-Fi and get a coffee. I had my dog in the car, and because I was filming a bunch of wood chopping videos, I had an axe in the front of the car, the front passenger wheel well. And I was driving towards McDonald's, and there was a truck behind me because it was very close to me. His lights were my eyes. And so I pulled over so this truck would pass. I pulled over in a well-lit area where there would be other people, intentionally, so that, because this person was driving close. So I thought he would pass, but I didn't want to be alone on the side of the road. So I pulled over in front of a school, and instead of passing, this white truck pulled onto the shoulder behind me. As I pulled over, I came to a really abrupt stop because it's like a 55-mile-an-hour road, and the axe that was in the wheel well turned blade side up. And at that time I had my big dog Tucker. He was in the back. I didn't want him to jump on it. So with the car still running and the lights on, I got out to put the axe in the back of the car. And that was when I realized that instead of passing me, the white truck had pulled onto the shoulder. I didn't think of a reason for him to be following me. I had a thesis about why someone might be following me, but I didn't know this person, but I wanted to see what he looked like. So I had the axe on my shoulder. I didn't say anything, didn't do anything other than walk towards the driver's side so I could see it was a man in his like 30s or 40s with some stubble. And then I put the axe in the car, and then he was still there. So this white truck with the lights in my eye, and then there was a truck next to him with lights, and then there was a truck driving with its lights pointed the wrong way. So it should have been in the westbound lane, but it was in the eastbound lane. So eastbound, 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 and the one on the shoulder. So I got out my phone and I took a little video. At this point, the axe was in the back of my car away from the dog, which is why I had moved it. Then I put the phone away, and then I drove to McDonald's, and then I spent the day making wood chopping videos. At 4 o'clock, I was arrested at the cabin, and I was taken to jail. It's 4 o'clock on February 10th. And I was informed when I got to the jail that I was charged with assault with a deadly weapon. And I read from the police report that they were alleging that I had, well, they didn't say that I threatened, they didn't say that I approached, but that a woman had seen me with the axe and I had assaulted her by her seeing me with the axe. I didn't see this woman, but I believe that from the way she was described, I believe she was the second car. So the car in the shoulder, who I had seen because he had followed me, and then there was a car in the shoulder, and the lights were there, so I didn't see the driver or anything, and nobody had a window down, but I believe that I was on the shoulder, she was in the eastbound lane, and she was probably in the driver's side, so the other side of a large truck. I did not see her, but I guess she saw me. Her name is Sandra Jordan, and the state of Michigan alleged that I assaulted her with a deadly weapon. And so I got a state appointed attorney named Lori Shearer, and I told her what I told you now, and I wrote it in a statement. My statement hasn't changed. And I told her that I understood that I was behaving bizarrely in a public place, that I wanted to plead to some sort of disturbing the peace. And she said, because this is supposed to be my probable cause hearing. So in Michigan, you have a hearing where the state has to show that they have evidence to charge you. But you usually have your plea agreement, your pre-sentencing meeting. And I wanted to enter a plea. She told me, Lori Shearer told me, the state of Michigan would not consider a plea. I don't know if that's true. She said that she wanted me to plead incompetent to stand trial and not guilty by reason of insanity. What Lori Shearer said, because in the police report, it described one woman, Sandra Jordan, driving and seeing me screaming and talking to myself and waving an axe around. Sandra Jordan did see the man on the shoulder. There's footage from the school showing there were 3 cars, not just one, but the police report indicated there was no other witness besides Sandra Jordan. So Lori Shearer said that, my attorney said that I imagined the guy on the side of the road and that I was having a psychotic delusion. And she mentioned that my mother, who is a passionate fan of getting, I'm the 3rd member of the family that she tried to have committed. She likes to tell people that we have schizophrenia. I've never been diagnosed with that. But since my lawyer said, and she sent Lori Shearer a copy of a federal lawsuit, which if you go on my @MegZBeth YouTube channel, my @MegZBeth Instagram, it's just everything I say here. But she says that I am paranoid and psychotic, and that I'm making all of that up, all of the crimes, that it's all in my head. So anyway, my lawyer, she did not review the evidence. She didn't review the videotape. She didn't review the body cam footage. She said to me, I have not reviewed Sandra Jordan's body cam footage, but according to the police report, you're crazy. And I said, I don't want to plead incompetent to stand trial. I don't want to plead not guilty by reason of insanity. I wouldn't even consider it. I wanted to plead not guilty by reason of actual innocence, because I didn't threaten anyone with a deadly weapon. I didn't touch anyone with a deadly weapon. I didn't touch anyone's property with a deadly weapon. So I did not commit assault with a deadly weapon. That's the fact. That's the fact of the case. And I never pled guilty to it. I pled no contest because Lori Shearer took away my ability to contest the charges. I had no contest. So this attorney, she said, yeah, if you don't plead incompetent to stand trial and not guilty by reason of insanity, I'm going to quit. And I said, well, I feel like if I agree to that, it's under coercion because you're threatening to quit. She said, oh no, I just tell the judge that you decided to get a new lawyer. And I said, well, but that will prejudice the judge against me, and it will seem like I can't work with a counsel, which I was found incompetent to stand trial. And one of the things you have to do to show you're competent is to swear that you'll work with your attorney. And then once you're declared competent, fire her. But I couldn't do that. So Lori Shearer said, we're in a Zoom breakout room before our pre-trial conference. So I've just been arraigned. It hasn't even moved to the felony court. I never even saw the felony judge. This is just a magistrate judge. And yeah, she said, okay, well, I'm going to go get my boss from the legal aid. So I figured we'd just get a new lawyer. But instead of coming back to the breakout room, I was put into the main room, and Lori Shearer stood up and said, Your Honor, my client pleads incompetent to stand trial. And so I had to wait almost 100 days in a county jail for a bed in a Michigan State mental hospital. I was sent to Caro Psychiatric Hospital, and I had to stay there for 90 days. I was diagnosed with psychosis, which is that I was imagining things with no mental illness. So it wasn't associated with something like schizophrenia or methamphetamine abuse disorder, just that I was imagining 2 things. The 2 delusions that I was alleged to have had was that imagining that there was a man on the side of the road who was not there. That was why my own attorney had me committed. And the second thing was imagining that I'm a federal witness in a criminal case in Chicago. And that's just a fact because Teresa Wigland in January of 2022 issued me 2 whistleblower numbers. She's a federal criminal investigator. So that a description of a whistleblower is somebody who gives testimony, a witness. So I don't think it's a delusion, but as psychiatrists and their social workers will tell you, oh, well, we're not lawyers. We couldn't possibly. So they're lawyers when it comes to telling you you're making shit up. But when they don't understand things, oh, golly, we're not lawyers. And maybe I know more about my life than you. We figured that out eventually. So, yeah, so I was kept in the hospital after 45. Oh, so then the problem was I kept saying, when Lori Shearer had me committed, she told me that she hadn't watched the body cam footage of the other witness. And I knew the other witness saw the man on the shoulder of the road. And I knew there were video cameras, and I figured the video cameras would show the other car. So at my 45-day check-in from the mental hospital, I said to the esteemed Lori Shearer, the brilliant attorney, I said, so Lori, if you really want me to heal from my psychosis, it would really help me to see the body cam footage of Sandra Jordan where she says that I was wielding an axe around and talking to myself on the shoulder of the road, because then I'd be able to work towards my recovery better. And at this time, and she said in front of 3 witnesses from Caro, Lori said that she would have a meeting with me. She would show me the body cam footage. She would watch the body cam footage. She never did schedule that meeting, and in 90 days she didn't respond to phone calls or emails. I think she did watch the footage though. So, yeah, so then at 45 days, I was not allowed to leave the hospital, and Dr. Emil said there was only one psychotic delusion that was keeping me from leaving. And he told me that I was still imagining that a man was on the shoulder of the road with me. And there was a psychiatrist who was assigned, and she said, other than imagining a man followed you onto the shoulder of the road, have you ever imagined other? I'm like, no, the truth is his car was behind me. I pulled onto the road. That action is following me. I'm not saying he followed me for nefarious reasons, but that's just, I was driving. He was behind me. He followed me onto the shoulder. And at the time I had and so Dr. Emil said that my delusion, seeing a man on the road, that wasn't in the police report. And I said to the social worker, well, it's not a fact if it's not in a police report. It's just, the police report says that, but I was there. The police report was written 3 hours afterwards. The police officer wasn't there. And there was a man on the side of the road. That is a fact. And the reason that we have trials is because what's written in police reports isn't always the entire truth. And so, then I had a psychologist who believed me, Dr. Robert Fowles. He was awesome. And I said, I don't know what to do, because I think to get out of here, I'm supposed to, should I just read the police report and memorize it? And he said, no, if you saw someone, you should just keep telling the truth. I haven't seen, and he always assured me he didn't see anything in me that suggested I was seeing or hearing things that didn't exist. So Dr. Fowles encouraged me to just tell the truth, and I did. And then finally I was let out. I never took any medications. I was never diagnosed with a mental illness. I got to go back, and as soon as I was declared competent, I fired Lori Shearer. And then I got an attorney named Michelle Lyons. Within 3 days, she had watched the evidence from the trial, and she saw one. Sandra Jordan definitely saw a man on the side of the road. There was a man in a truck behind me that followed me onto the shoulder of the road that I briefly spoke to with an axe. And in her statement, Sandra Jordan said she then looked away and she didn't see an axe in my hand. She did see me holding my camera, and I was yelling. And what made people think I'm deluded is I thought the man who followed me was a member of the DOJ. I thought he was a U.S. Marshal. That was my thesis. I didn't get that from a telepathic message from aliens. It was just based on my life and the people who followed me. For whatever reason, this man was not mentioned in the police report or interviewed. The video footage of me interacting with him started well after he followed me, so it didn't show him following me onto the side of the road, didn't show his license plate or anything, and he wasn't interviewed or mentioned in the police report. before all that happened, my thesis was he was a marshal, because sometimes they follow around federal witnesses in racketeering cases, which I am. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. For some reason, the person I thought was a marshal was never mentioned in the police report. But the only witness interviewed, Sandra Jordan, did see him, did see the car. I didn't imagine it. And as Michelle Lyon said, you're not crazy. Lori Shearer just didn't look at the witness statement. She didn't look at the footage. She just decided to have me committed. That's what happened. So at that point, I had been incarcerated for 200 days. The state offered me to plead to the misdemeanor assault. And I said, I can't do that because I didn't assault anyone. But they agreed to let me plead no contest, which isn't saying I'm admitting to committing the act, because I have no awareness of ever assaulting anyone, and nobody will testify that I assaulted them. A Karen drove by her kid's school and saw something she didn't understand and made herself relevant, but I didn't assault her. I've never laid eyes on the woman, whoever Sandra Jordan is. So yeah, after 200 days, I could plead guilty to a crime with a maximum sentence of 90 days. And I didn't want to do that, but then I found out if I had waited for trial, I would have to sit in jail another 6 months while a jury was impaneled. So 200 days plus 180 days. That's a lot for yelling at a cop. And so then I realized, and she also told me that Judge Egglestrom, the magistrate judge, had been on the bench for 3 years and she'd never seen him dismiss the case, because I shouldn't have had to go to trial for this case, because nobody saw me threaten anyone with an axe. Nobody heard me threaten anyone with an axe, and nobody was touched by an axe. So I did not assault anyone with a deadly weapon according to the evidence, according to the facts. But facts don't matter so much to ambitious country judges who just want to show they're tough. So I was made to understand that I would either do 6 months in jail and maybe be found guilty to a felony, or I could walk. So I did. Judge Egglestrom, I think he felt embarrassed that he sent me to a loony bin, even though I have no mental illness. Probably feels a little embarrassed about that. So he didn't let me have a speedy sentencing. He made me do a 6-week PR bond to try to catch me on an ankle tether, but I didn't. I didn't drink, didn't do any drugs, didn't stay out past 10, and wore an ankle tether for 6 months. And they wouldn't give me this phone that I'm recording this on, so I couldn't access Instagram. Couldn't access it from a website, they wouldn't let me access my Instagram because it was associated with this phone. So now I have my phones and my axe back, and I have a warm place to stay for now. I haven't been able to get employment because now I'm not a desirable teacher because I'm guilty of assault, according to the state of Michigan. There just isn't anyone that I assaulted. That's the only problem. Well, other than my life being ruined, but the problem with the logic of my assault conviction. So that's me.